Okay. So first of all, happy Easter, everybody. I hope you've had a nice day. I hope you've gotten lots of chocolate from the Easter bunny or however you celebrated. And well done for getting here to this workshop. So my name's Chris and I'm joined by my colleague, Alex. Alex, do you want to say hi?
Hey guys, happy that you're here. Happy Easter. Glad that you could all make it. Yeah, brilliant.
So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So to start with, Alex and I are going to tell you just a little bit about our stories and how we got into teaching this, how this work became our life's work and the greatest passion of our lives, really. And we're going to talk just a little bit about what it means to awaken through the body, what body work is, what this work that we teach is. And then after that, Alex is going to guide you through a practice, a bioenergetics practice. Some of you, if you've been with us before, you'll know bioenergetics. Others who are new to us might not have practiced before. So you'll get to know it before the end of the session. Alex will guide about half an hour of bioenergetics or something like that. Okay, so I'll jump into just telling you a little bit about how I got into this. So when I was 18, I started suffering with depression and anxiety, like lots of 18-year-olds do when they leave home for the first time or whatever. All of this stuff can come up, all of this anxiety, depression. When I was 21 years old, it really kicked off. It became really intense, so intense that I couldn't ignore it. So intense that it was causing me suffering in my mind every day. For years, I was suffering in my mind, intense thoughts, worrying thoughts, anxious thoughts, depressed thoughts, thoughts of low self-esteem, whatever it was. And I straight away was looking for solutions. Okay, how can I resolve this? How can I find a way out of this? Suddenly, 21 years old, not knowing anything about the mind, not knowing anything about psychology, feeling completely lost with this, what felt like a huge weight of challenge, of mental, psychological challenge. And so I went down the route of psychology, and I was seeing a psychologist for a few years, working in a cognitive behavioral therapy way, trying to change my thinking patterns in order to change the way that I feel. And this was helpful to a degree, but after a few years working with this psychological methodology, as much as I could, all the self-help I could find, everything I could find to try and heal this anxiety, this depression that I was experiencing, it was still there. It was still there under the surface. Something wasn't right. I was still suffering. I was suffering in the mind. The reason I was suffering so much is because I'd completely cut myself off from the felt sense of my body. The feelings I experienced when I was in my late teens, early 20s were so intense that I had to get away from them, and I escaped into thinking. I came up out of my body into my mind and was just caught in this continuous loop of thinking. Panic attacks, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, one day, somebody told me about this practice called inner bonding or inner child therapy or something. And they taught me to, instead of trying to get away from the feelings, instead of trying to get away from them, to move closer to them. To imagine that the feelings, the fear, the depression, the sadness, the shame, the guilt, whatever it is, to imagine that that's a child. How would you treat that child? How would you be with that child? And then one day, I was having a panic attack like I'd done many times, coming up into my mind, lost in thoughts, thinking that my whole world was going to end. And I remembered this. Instead of trying to get away from the feelings, what if I embrace them? What if I move into them? What if I just feel them? And in that moment, something happened. Suddenly, after years of suffering, I conjured up the courage to dive into the feelings. And the whole extent of my awareness came out of the panicked thinking in the head, down into my body, and I felt these feelings that I'd spent my whole life running from. And something incredible happened. After all those years of struggling and suffering in my mind, finally, I entered into this state of complete peace. The mind completely quieted down. There was this joy in my heart. I hadn't experienced joy for years. I hadn't experienced love for years. And it was like everything went into slow motion. Everything slowed down. And I had this sense of relief, this sense of being home, back home. Like I'd regained a part of my soul, like I'd found a part of my soul that I'd lost. And I went outside, I was walking around the garden, and a phrase came into my mind. It said, "This is what spirituality is." I'd never heard of spirituality. I'd never thought about spirituality. I didn't know, I'd never thought about it. I was an atheist. I'd never thought about it. And it was, this is what spirituality is. Because in my willingness to reconnect with my feelings, I reconnected with my feelings. And then in reconnecting with those feelings, I reconnected with the felt sense of my own being. I didn't know it at the time. I wouldn't have used those words at the time. I just knew I felt connected again, connected to myself and connected to the world around me, connected to this causeless happiness, joy, and peace. Now that's an experience I've just described. And that experience came and it went, and the challenging mind patterns came up again, and I was in suffering again, but I knew a way out. I knew a way out, and it was through the doorway of the body. Through the doorway of the body, through the willingness to feel. Because almost everybody on this planet is afraid to feel. We're all running away from our feelings. All psychological suffering is because we're running away from our feelings. All psychological suffering is because we're running away from our bodies. And when we disconnect from our bodies, the reason we disconnect from our bodies is because when we were younger, the feelings were too much for us to feel. And so we escaped into thinking. We created thinking in the mind as a way of escaping the feelings. But something happens when we do that. Yes, we escape the difficult feelings, but we also escape and turn away from the felt sense of joy that can be felt in the body, of love that can be felt in the body. We turn away from our own being and we feel disconnected. And that is what the ego is. The ego mind, which you hear about all the time in spirituality, is simply an escape from the body. And so this journey, awakening through the body, what Alex and I teach is about regaining that connection to the body. And there's many ways in which we teach it. One of them, Alex is a bioenergetics teacher. And so he's going to explain a little bit more about that. So I'm going to pass it over to Alex. He can tell you a little bit about his story. He can introduce bioenergetics, and then he's going to pass the baton back to me. And we're going to dive into our bodies with our awareness, meditatively. But yes, I'll pass over to Alex now. Thank you for listening.
Cheers, Chris. Yeah, so welcome, guys. Yeah, just to touch on my story a little bit, yeah, I had quite a difficult childhood and very abusive in many ways. And, each year of my life from being a child, I was just constantly repressing emotions. I was just always pushing down my feelings. My feelings was too much for me to handle, particularly anxiety, low self-esteem and things like that. It was, yeah, just a never-ending cycle of pushing down emotions and creating blocks in my system ultimately. And then I got to around the age of 21, 22, and then I had a panic attack. And, I'd heard of panic attacks. I was studying psychology at the time for my degree, but I never knew what a panic attack was really, not experientially. And yeah, I had a panic attack. I woke up in the morning and I noticed that my heart was beating so fast. And like, I'd never even been aware that I had a body in many ways. I was never aware of the feelings in my body because I was so in my head. And all of a sudden I woke up age 21, 22, and my heart was accelerating out my chest. And I didn't know what was going on. I really didn't know what was going on. And, of course, this come from a difficult childhood, and even my adolescent years was pretty challenging. In fact, my entire life was challenging, my entire life up until that point. And it was going to get a lot worse, little did I know, had been a challenge. And it comes down to this idea of repressing emotion, my emotions being too much for me to handle. So I kept on pushing it all down. And, similar to Chris, I kind of went down the psychology route. Yeah, that was my degree. And then I went to see some psychotherapists, primarily CBT, medication and things like that. But in many ways, I just found that it was taking me further and further away from my body. It was taking me further and further away from where I actually needed to go, which was my body. Even talking therapy, I'm a fan of talking therapy. It's great, but in many ways, it kind of kept me stuck at this disassociated level of thinking. And I kind of just went round the sides, willing to look at some bits, but not others. And it just wasn't deep enough for me. It just couldn't get me to where I wanted to be. And that was in my body. Now, this is what bioenergetics is. It's a body movement therapy that is specifically intended to remove the effects of repression. And of course, repression, I mean repressed emotions. Now, yeah, this is a great thing simply because all of us repress, all of us push down feelings. And we do this because we have like a self-image or an ideal self, an ego in the mind, this self that we aspire towards. And anything that doesn't really align with this self, this idea that we have of ourselves and how we present ourselves in our mind, we push it back down. So if anxieties are rising or if anger's coming up, these are seen as not being acceptable emotions or not okay or negative states. So we tend to push it down and hide it from others and hide it from ourselves. We become in denial about our experience. We're like, I just want the good bits. I just want to experience what is good, basically. I just want positive emotions, and anything that makes me feel uncomfortable, I don't want to look at that. I'm going to push it back down. I'll look at it another day. But of course, that day never comes. And then we go through life, days, weeks, months, years, decades of just repressing emotion, pushing it back down. And then by the time we get to our mid-20s, like I did, we've got this body that is filled with repressed emotion, this body that is filled with holding patterns. And holding patterns are like tension in the body that keeps the emotions in, basically. So yeah, in other words as well, we kind of just use the body as a dumping ground. We use it as a place to store our emotions, but the more that we store in the body, the further we go up into the mind. I mean, we're not going to want to live somewhere that makes us feel uncomfortable. So if the body is filled with repression, then it makes sense that we're going to go further into the mind, further into the head, into thoughts, into concepts and fantasy, imagination. But of course, this is a very limiting way to live. The mind is very limiting, it's very critical, it's very judgmental. And, the body really is where it's at, it's where we meet the other, it's where we meet ourselves, all the different parts of us, all of our joy, our power, our expression, our natural sense of groundedness. But of course, in the body, there's a lot of stuff going on, and all of these innate qualities tend to be covered by all of this repression. So bioenergetics, what we're going to practice in a minute, is a way to open up the body, to bring the repressed emotions up to the surface. And of course, over time, as we practice this, we have more access to our, spontaneity, joy, happiness, whatever, love, connection. But yeah, in many ways, the only way to deal with this is to go through it, is to experience it, is to give these repressed feelings that we've been dealing with chance to release. Because because if we don't do that, ultimately, we just kind of put a band-aid over what's going on. We just put a band-aid over it. We can think more positively, we can have positive thoughts, and we just stay cut off. I think you just said then, Chris, you was kind of cut off from the neck down, from the head down. So body-based therapy, bioenergetics, it's a way to get back in touch with the body. It's a way to release the repressed emotions. And then the more we release, the more we can feel good, the more we feel freer in the mind. So what we're going to practice today is the bow posture, arch posture, and then a shoulder sequence with some shaking. So I'll demonstrate the postures. You don't have to stand up, just follow my guidance. So the first posture, can you see me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. So the first posture is called the bow posture. And we take our feet roughly shoulder width apart with a nice bend in the legs. Very important that we have this bend in the legs. Don't want to be locked straight and cutting the energy off. So a nice wide stance, outsides of the feet parallel. Mine are pointing out slightly, but that's okay. Just go with what feels comfortable. Then we're going to bring the hands up directly above our heads and back behind our ears. And my pelvis is forward, my chest is out, and I'm meeting the world. It's very important that we have this kind of like dignified posture. We are opening to the world. And what's good about this is that it opens up the entire front part of the body, right from the pelvis all the way up to the throat. So the diaphragm, the chest, we're opening up the heart. So many of us, we have a closed heart. We're so tight in the chest because it's our feeling center. We can feel in the heart. And for many people, it's quite painful, emotionally painful, not physically. So the arms are up, nice and straight, back behind the ears. And then once we're in the posture, the other element to bioenergetics, so this is the posture, the other element is breathing deep in and out through the mouth and really feeling the body. Turn on my side. So it might be difficult to tell on the screen, but I'm bringing my breath all the way down into my belly. It's very important. We do this because breathing in this way builds up a charge. It activates the repression. It activates a certain level of feeling in the body. And, so many of us, we can't really feel. Very few people can actually feel. We can think brilliantly. It's promoted in the West in particular to have a good mind, a rational mind, but to feel is dangerous. To feel is dangerous to the mind, of course. So breathing deep in and out through the mouth, really feeling the body. So that's posture one. Then the ding will go, we'll transition. Don't worry about remembering all this because I will be guidance through. Bringing the feet slightly closer together, about 6 inches apart. Nice bend in the knees, and we're going to transition into the arch posture. So that was the bow going over into the arch. My head gets heavy, leading the way. My weight is forward, so the weight is slightly forward in the balls of my feet, so roughly 60-40. My weight's forward. Now, even if you are super flexible in this position, it's important not to go all the way down. It's not about stretching the body as such. It's not a yoga posture. We're going in this position to activate emotions. So it's important that we have our hands roughly 6 to 8 inches off the floor. And then we have a little shape of the head. Yes, no, arms, shoulders. And then the tailbone is lifting up. And the legs are straight, but not locked straight. Always keeping that steady bend in the knees. And then once I've got the posture, I start up the process of breathing deep in and out through my mouth, really feeling the body. And, try to have a circular breath, not to the point of hyperventilation, but just a steady, meditative, full breath and feel the body. That's where the healing happens. Is the more, there's a saying in therapy, the more we feel, the more we'll heal, or feeling is healing, something like that. So we've gone into the bow, arch posture. Then we're going to start with the shoulder sequence. So it goes as follows. First part, I bring my shoulders as close as I can. So I'm really opening up the back part of my body here. My arms are nice and loose, or as loose as can be. And the movement is in the shoulders. So really squeezing the shoulders together. Have the intention to get the shoulders to touch in the middle. Physiologically, it's not possible, but just have that intention. So we're constantly squeezing, and then once we've got the posture, we start breathing deep and feeling the body. The ding will go, then we're going to go into the counter stretch. I'll turn around for this. So my arms come back behind my body, and I'm really squeezing into my shoulder blades. I'm really grinding the muscles together. We store so much tension in the shoulders. So really squeezing the shoulders together, and of course, breathing deep and feeling the body. The ding will go again. Then we're going to go into shoulder raises. So the shoulders come up nice and high, bringing the shoulders up towards the earlobes. Same again, having the intention for them to touch your ears. Nice bend in the knees, bringing the shoulders up as high as we can, breathing deep, feeling the body. And what's beautiful about this work is that, if we just do what's required in terms of the posture, breathing and feeling, we get results. We don't have to go and navigate through the mind and figure things out so much. If we can take the charge out, if we can take the repressed emotions out, we create a certain level of psychological health just from taking the charge out of the body. We see this posture as well, the shoulder raises with people that have got anxiety. It's a great remedy for anxiety. A lot of people that have got anxiety, they have the shoulders up high as though they're scared and, on edge, jumpy. So that's the third part of the shoulder sequence. And then the fourth part is slightly different. It's a little bit more dynamic. And in some ways, it's a bit of a emotional release. So we bring the shoulders up, we've built up the charge, built up some tension, we bring the shoulders up, and then we just throw them down. And we call this the teenager release. It's like a teenager that's pissed off, had enough, throwing the arms down, shoulders down. And if you're in a space where you can do so, then make a little bit of sound. Make a little bit of sound when we throw the shoulders down. So as follows. Like a grunt-like sound, like a teenager that's pissed off, throwing something off, had enough, and making the face ugly. We're not smiling. We spend so much of our life smiling and being pleasant, but not for this exercise. Take it on. Take it on. That's it. And the ding will go, and we'll finish with a bit of shaking or sitting meditation or something like that. Yeah, any questions? We're all good? Okay, guys, if you'd like to take your positions, let's have a look at you. Yeah, good stuff. And we'll start with the bow posture. We're going round on a 2-minute ding. 2-minute ding, 3 minutes in the bow, sorry, 3 rounds of the bow, 3 rounds in the arch, shoulder sequence, but I'll guide us through. Okay, so the timer is on. We're going for it. We're taking it on. Feet roughly shoulder width apart, maybe a bit more. Bending the knees, bending the legs. Arms up, straight back behind the body. The pelvis is forward, the chest is out. We're meeting the world. We're open to the world. We're open to feeling. And once we're in the position, that's it. Once we're in the position, start breathing down into the belly. Continuously deep breaths and feeling the body. Very important. Keeping the arms nice and straight, or as straight as we can, back behind the ears, opening up the entire front part of the body. That's it, guys, looking good, sticking with it, bringing that breath down to the lower part of the belly, best you can. So many of us are cut off from the belly, have shallow breathing. So it's a good way to train us to breathe deep and to continuously breathe through uncomfortable feelings or strenuous postures, discomfort in the body. Okay, there's the ding. We're going to slowly transition. So bringing the arms down, mindfully moving, feet closer together, 6 to 8 inches apart, bending the legs, the head gets heavy, leading the way. And same with the hands, they want to be around 6 to 8 inches off the floor. Having a little shake out with the head, yes, no. Arms, shoulders, give it a little wiggle. So we're completely surrendered from the waist down. Making sure that weight is slightly forward. And the tailbone is lifting up. You can imagine there's a cord and it's lifting us up towards the ceiling. And once we've got the posture, we start the process of breathing deep into the belly, really feeling the body, feeling the legs, feeling the back, allowing it to open it up. Staying as present as we can. And we stay present by feeling the body. Okay, there's the ding, slowly coming back up. Going to go around a couple more times. Ready to transition into our bow posture. arms up. That's it. Nice transition. Pelvis forward, chest out, proud chest. Really important that we're bringing that breath down as low as we possibly can. And you may notice the breath and the feeling sense are interlinked. So the deeper you breathe, the more you'll feel, and vice versa. It can be in this posture for some people, pretty much straight away they experience a shake or like a vibration sensation coming through the body. And that's usually a good sign. If there is a little bit of shaking happening, a bit of spontaneous release, just allow it. Allow the body to open up. So many of us, we spend our days hunched over on phones and laptops, sat on the sofa watching TV. You know, we're shut off from the world, but this posture is about opening back to the world, opening to our feelings. Okay, there's the ding, slowly bringing the arms back down as we transition into our arch posture for the second time. Remember, just giving a little shake out with the head, the arms, the hands. Bringing that weight forward with the tailbone lifting up and the knees bent. It'll be good to put a bit of sound, you know, to the out breath or to the breathing in general, just making it slightly audible. Just helps us stay engaged a little bit more with the process. Quite often we find if you've started to hold your breath, it's usually because we've gone up into thought. Usually we've gone up into the mind and we've disassociated to some degree. So very important that we check in, that we're continuously breathing. Feeling into the legs, feeling into the back, feeling into anywhere in the body that has sensation, that has feeling. The more we feel, that'll continue to grow, it'll expand, our awareness will expand down into the body. There's the ding, slowly coming back up for our third and final time into the bow posture. Let's go for it. Taking it on, arms nice and straight. We can do it. That's it. Looking good. And as the breath comes in, we're feeling the body. And as the breath goes out, we're also feeling the body. So we're setting up a pattern of feeling with our breath. That's it. Keeping them arms up, straight as we can. Learning how to breathe deep, breathing the way babies do, the way animals do. We breathe deep into the belly. Nice full breaths. Not being afraid to make a little bit of sound on the out breath if it feels natural and if you're in a space where you can do that. There's the ding, slowly bringing the arms back down and staying present with this movement, with this transition, almost like Tai Chi or Qigong, if you participated in them. Going forward for the final time, arch posture, taking it on. You know what to do by now, bringing that weight forward, bending the knees, breathing deep and feeling the body. And this posture is more of a surrendered posture. It's practicing the art of surrender in a very physical way. Simply just relaxing into our experience, relaxing into the posture, breathing deep and feeling the body. Experiment a little bit with the sound if you can, you know. We learn to keep everything in. Anytime any difficult situation comes up, we hold our breath and we don't let anything out. We don't let any sound out. So there's the ding, coming back up, getting ready to go into the shoulder sequence. So shoulders forward. That's it. Keep it going, guys. Looking good. That's it. Squeezing as tight as we can. Of course, not to the point of physical injury, but if you've got injuries, that is like an impingement or frozen shoulder, but this can actually be really good for that type of stuff. So squeezing the shoulders together, opening up the back part of the body, the top of the back where the shoulder blades are, and breathing deep. Keeping that gaze straight ahead the best we can, and the eyes are open. Always keeping the eyes open, willing to look at what's going on. So other than my shoulders, the rest of my body is fairly relaxed. My arms are a little bit tense, but other than that, go for relaxation throughout the rest of the body. The movement is in the shoulders. Okay, there's the ding and release. Going into our counter stretch. Arms back behind the body, grinding into the shoulder blades. So really squeezing the shoulders together, grinding into the shoulder blades, building up that tension. You can feel it in the chest. It starts to open up this area, as well as activate the shoulder blades. Keep that squeeze going, staying present in the body. We've got 2 minutes on the timer. Well, not 2 minutes left, but keep it going. You can do it. In this type of work, we're going below the thinking mind. We're getting into the body, into our repression. And many of us have decades, generations of repressed emotion in the body. By feeling, we allow it to release and process and integrate. Keep that squeeze going the best you can. Grind it into the shoulder blades. It can be quite intense. And having a semi-meditative attitude, so we're mindful of what's going on in the body. There's the ding, releasing that movement, quick shake out. And we go into shoulder raises, so nice and high. Remember, the intention is to get the shoulders to touch the earlobe, so up as high as we can. So my arms are as loose as possible, my body's relaxed, and my shoulders are up towards my ears. And once I've got it, I'm breathing deep into my belly and feeling my body. We can do it. Keep them shoulders up the best you can. Edge of the comfort zone. That's where we want to work. We can do it. Shoulders up high, breathing deep, feeling the body. We're building up to the release phase of the workout, the teenager release. Keeping it going. Present in the body. Okay, there's the ding. Releasing that for a second. Getting ready to go into the release phase. Teenager release. Pissed off teenager, had enough. Shoulders up, throwing them down. So it's not in the arms, it's in the shoulders. Making a grunt-like sound. Ugly face. Embody it. Pissed off, had enough. We can do it. Present in the body. grunt-like sound. Okay, there's the ding, slowly letting that movement come to an end. Well done, guys. Now, staying where we are, we're going to go into a couple of rounds of shaking. So just as we are, just feeling into a little shake in the legs. I didn't demonstrate this actually, but you can probably get the idea. We're just shaking the body. So we're not going side to side. It's a vertical shake. So we're nice and relaxed, feeling into the legs, the belly, the chest, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the wrists. We're nice and loose, nice and relaxed. And for this part, you can close your eyes if you feel to, but it's still bioenergetic. So we're sticking with the breathing and feeling elements. As you can see, I've got my hands out in front of me. That sometimes helps stimulate a bit of a shake. I'm pushing my pelvis forward as I'm leaning back into the shake. Now, all animals shake, or certainly mammals shake. They shake as a way to release. But because we've got these powerful frontal lobes, we can push it back down. We don't have to release. We can hold on to it. We can hold on to the past. This is it. This is the past on a very physical level. Holding patterns. So pushing that pelvis forward if you feel to, hands out in front of you. This is optional. Just do what feels intuitive. Staying present in the body, present to what's going on. Now, in a minute, we're going to come back to a seated position, but I invite you to really stay present in your body. Chris is going to take over, and we're going to go into a meditation. And yeah, try not to go on the phone or switch off. It's very important. But sticking with the shake for now, keeping it going, steady shake. The body, it's almost like we're massaging the body, like a free massage, you know? Nice and loose. The head is just bobbing along for the ride. Breathing and feeling. Making sure you're not holding in the belly, you know? The belly is just often locked tight. So making sure the belly is nice and loose, as well as the rest of the body, of course. Bit of a sigh as though we're getting into a hot bath or something like that. Just relaxing. Okay, letting that shake come to an end. But stay present. Mindful movements as we come back to a seated position, ready for Chris to guide us with a meditation. And a huge well done for participating in that.
Okay, guys, so we're just going to sit for a few moments before I go into guiding. And just feel how your experience may be different than what your experience of yourself was. "30 minutes ago." Don't think about this, feel it in your body. Enjoy your body. Enjoy the feeling of your body. Maybe there's a sense of quiet here. Maybe you notice that the mind is a little bit quieter than it was half an hour ago. Maybe you feel a little bit more spacious than you did. Whatever you're feeling is okay. There's no special requirement to feel any particular way. So bioenergetics is great. It's very simple. These exercises, very simple. Takes a little bit of work, but it's quite deep. It triggers stuff to be released from deep within our body, which is another way of saying it triggers stuff to be released from our subconscious mind. Things that we might not even be aware of, and we don't need to know what is being released. The way that Alex and I work is we include, as well as bioenergetics, we include a practice to bring awareness into the body. Many practices to bring awareness into the body. So for most of our day, our attention is in the head. It's with the thoughts. And it's attention that fuels thinking. Thinking gets its fuel from us giving it attention. So one thing we can do to withdraw the fuel away from the busy thinking mind is to simply place our attention down within our bodies. So and that's what I invite you to do now. Place your hands up like this, facing towards the ceiling. And place them down on your lap, or wherever feels comfortable. And I invite you now to sense into your hands. You don't have to look at them. You don't have to think about them. All you need to do is move attention into them. And by me saying this, feel your hands, move attention into your hands. Naturally, without any effort on your part, your hands have become just a little bit more vivid within your awareness. You may experience some tingling, a subtle sense of pins and needles. I invite you to feel your hands from within. Feel the inner energy of your hands. Feel them. Don't think about them. If thinking happens, that's okay. Everything's allowed here. Now, what if I ask you to feel your feet? Naturally, without much effort, your attention goes into your feet. You feel the pressure on the ground. You might also feel some warmth or cold or some tingling. So what if I say, feel your hands and your feet at the same time? And as you do this, as you feel into your hands, your feet, feel into your body, you're withdrawing attention away from the busy thinking mind. And you may notice a subtle sense of quiet, something a bit more quiet arises within your experience. Now, bioenergetics can bring up emotions sometimes. If there's any emotions present in your body, in the same way that you felt your hands, in the same way that you felt your feet, you place your attention in or on the feeling, in or on the emotion. Now, an emotion is just contracted energy in the body. Emotions only cause suffering when that contracted energy in the body rises up into the mind and creates negative stories in the mind. So if you experience fear, you'll have fearful stories in the mind. If you experience sadness, you'll have sad stories in the mind. Shame, shameful stories in the mind. There is a corresponding mind thought pattern to every emotion we feel in the body. Now, the suffering isn't in the emotion, because the emotion is just pure energy. And when you really feel into it, it's just sensation. If you can feel your buttocks on the chair now, you feel that as a sensation. If you really feel into an emotion without the corresponding mind story, it's just pure sensation. It's actually just energy. So the number one doorway back into the body, the number one doorway to become embodied, to return to that place of childlike goodness and joy again, to really come in touch with that felt sense of your own being again, the number one doorway is through the doorway of the emotions. Now, the reason we became these mind-based human beings with an ego, and everybody's so unsatisfied, everybody's seeking in different ways to try and find something that they feel is missing, is because when we were little kids and we had emotional experiences and our caregivers weren't necessarily as conscious as they could have been, because we live in an unconscious world and their parents were unconscious and their parents were unconscious, they weren't able to be there fully for our emotions. And so they were too much for us when we were kids. They were too much for us. What do we do if we have big emotions that are too much? We escape into thinking in the mind. We escape into dreams in the mind. And this doesn't happen all at once, that you become a mind-based person. You see it as a child grows older. When they're a baby, they're not in their mind. They are free being. Free being. That's why you love to look into a baby's eyes, because you see their being shining and you recognize it and you know that that is home. And then the child grows up, becomes 3. You still see it shining out their eyes. You see the joy in their little bodies when they're running around the garden, in the sandpit or whatever. They're full of joy. They're in touch with their bodies. They feel deeply their bodies. They won't say this. They wouldn't be able to conceptualize it, but they feel the joy. They feel their life force energy. And with that, they feel a sense of connection to what's around them, a sense of safety. And that's why we look back at childhood memories with such reverence. That was such an amazing time. Childhood, it's a heaven world. It was a heaven world because we were in our bodies. And our journey is to come back into our bodies and re-enter that world that we knew as children. And as I said, the number one doorway is through the emotions. The emotions came when we were a child. It was too much to feel, so we created a thinking to escape. And by the time we got to older children, by the time we became teenagers and we were at school and there's all of these judgments and all of this stuff going on, especially if we experience traumas, we get through high school and poof, we're in the mind. We're mind-based human beings living in a conceptual reality that is cut off from being, cut off from our bodies. And almost everyone's in this to varying degrees. If you are someone who's experienced acute suffering, then that mind becomes so intense that it causes so much suffering that you have to find solutions. You have to find a way out. Okay, so what's the way out? How do these emotions help us awaken to a deeper sense of ourselves? How do these emotions help us awaken to our being? Well, I'll give you one method. We all get triggered. Getting triggered is the normal part of being human. You know, you're going through the day, something happens. You might be feeling okay. Someone says something happens, and an emotion comes up. The emotion's been triggered. That emotion creates thinking in the mind that corresponds to the energy of the emotion. We'll use the example of fear. Someone says something or you read something, it creates fear in your body. Then you start having fearful thoughts about whatever. Those fearful thoughts create more fear in the body, more of that fearful energy in the body, which creates more fearful thoughts, which creates more of that fearful energy in the body. And you get pulled into this loop of thinking, feeling. And most people do not have a way out of that. So they distract onto the phone, onto the addictions, smoking, drinking. Or you just wait it out after a while. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month. It dies down. But then we triggered again and we get caught in it again, and people don't have a way out of it. They lose their power to the mind. They give their power away to the mind. The mind takes them over. The mind takes them over. So what you need to do when you notice that this is happening, when you notice that you're about to be pulled into this loop of thinking, feeling, as soon as you notice the emotions there and the thoughts are happening, you take all of your attention away from the thinking. You withdraw your attention away from the thinking and you place it in the emotion in the body. You place it in the energy of the emotion in the body, the sensation of the emotion in the body, wherever you feel it. It may be in your heart, a little bit of tightness, maybe in your belly, maybe in your throat. If you've been cut off from your body, your feelings, and in the mind for a long time, you might not feel the body so much. So we have to reacquaint ourselves with it, but there will be a little bit of feeling there. Whatever it is, no matter how small, you feel it. Even if it's big, you feel it. And when you place your attention in it, fully in it, you cut that vicious cycle of thinking, feeling. You cut the vicious cycle of suffering. When you're just with the pure energy of the emotion, and the mind doesn't move anymore. If you stay fully in the body, fully in the feeling, the mind, which may have been causing you suffering for years, suddenly isn't moving, and you're free. You're free. Now, when you do this, when you come into the feelings and you feel it, that mind is so enticing, it will try to pull you in. Your attention will be pulled back towards this mind. As soon as you notice that, you just come back to the feeling and you stay. You need this alert sense of presence. And if you manage to do this, then it really awakens you to a new state of consciousness, a new state of being. Now, what will happen is you might be afraid to feel these feelings. And when you come into it, the feelings, when you're not coming into thinking so much, the feelings might start to grow bigger. And most people think the feeling's growing bigger, I've got to get away into the thinking. No, if the feeling's growing bigger, that's a good sign. You don't need to get away into the thinking, you stay with the feeling and you let it grow. If it's growing, it's coming up into you. It's been repressed for so long, it's coming up, and that can allow it to stretch and open out of your nervous system and release from your nervous system. And this is how we really heal these emotions, by fully being in them, fully feeling them without going so much into the, or at all into the stories in the mind. It's an incredible process, an incredible process. So profound. When I discovered this, it was one of the greatest discoveries I've ever made in my life, because up until that point, I'd been in this mind constantly for years. Nightmares every night. As soon as I wake up, mind, 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 mind. No way out. And I couldn't distract myself. There was no way out. Suddenly, I'm here. The feeling arises. I see, oh no, I'm going to get pulled into it again. I remember, no, come into the body. Oh my God. I'm free. I'm not being pulled into that. And when you're free from the mind, naturally your being, I didn't know this at the time, but your being starts to arise into experience, and you experience this joy, this causeless joy. Causeless joy is our natural state. Causeless joy is our nature. We just don't realize it because we're so in the mind. When I first started experiencing this causeless joy randomly, like being on a bus or whatever, I'd be like, what is this? Like, it's so weird. I'm just feeling joyful for no reason. Nothing's happened. That's our natural state. Now, that's just, I feel that all the time. Joy, yes, joy, of course. But then it was unusual, and it's unusual for people. But that is our natural state. Joy is our natural state. Okay, I'm not going to go on for so much longer because we want to take a couple of questions. I'm just going to say one more thing before we do move on to questions. Within every emotion, there's a gift. We've called this workshop Awakening Through the Body. Awakening through the body. And lots of people on the spiritual path awaken from the mind. It's all about coming out of the mind up here. And we teach that as well. We like that as well. It's good to free yourself from the thoughts. It's good to find ways to not believe the thoughts, to come into this awareness within which the mind is arising. That's a big part of what we teach as well. But if you're only learning that, if you're only practicing those kinds of meditations, if you're only practicing trying to free yourself up in the mind, then you're missing out on these jewels, these absolute jewels down in the body. This is the path of Tantra, the true path of Tantra. Tantra, and I'm not talking about the sexual practices, I'm talking about the true Tantra, which obviously includes that. The true Tantra is about meeting whatever's within us with awareness, with consciousness, and seeing that everything within us, every challenge, every emotion has a transformational potential. There is a gift within each emotion. There is a gift within our trauma. There's a spiritual gift within our trauma, an incredible spiritual gift within our trauma. And all of the challenges in life, all of the challenging emotions, all of the experiences we've been through were not a mistake. They didn't happen to us as a victim. They happened for us to help us awaken. To awaken to a deeper sense of ourselves. Awaken to what everybody is looking for on the planet. True happiness, lasting happiness. So within every emotion, there's a gift. Anger, when met with awareness, with consciousness, opens up to this sense of fearlessness, this warrior spirit, this power, not power over others, this power in yourselves, a feeling of you cannot fuck with me, nobody can fuck with me. There's a gift within anger, there's a gift within rage. Fear, when met, when you meet the energy of fear, it opens you up to this absolute aliveness, this gorgeous sensitivity. Shame, it opens you up to this humility. This humility, it softens the ego. Okay, I'm not going to go through every emotion now because we do need to get to questions. Yeah. So before we move on, I'm just going to pass over to Alex, see if he has anything he'd like to say.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to add, that this is a journey. You know, it's not a quick fix. That's not what we're talking about here. It's a process. It really is a process of coming back to the body, because you know, for most of us, we've spent so long up top in our minds. Our habit of attention is to go up top, so it can be a process of coming back down into the body, a journey. And you know, meeting these emotions, meeting fear, it really is in many ways the most liberating experience possible, because we get to see. And it just had me thinking when you was talking, Chris, I as I said, I used to suffer from panic attacks, and yeah, I can remember one building up so intensely. Like I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was going to die. Everything felt like it was falling in on top of me. And I just felt it. I felt the energy of this panic, what was arising up in my system. And fully meeting it, I just exploded internally, full, like my world filled up of happiness, and like, whoa, I love this emotion. I could almost see myself as a boy and going through what I'd been through. But that came with practice, with constantly coming back to the body, coming back to the emotion. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because it can be quite a journey, and but it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. So I just wanted to add that, but other than that, I think we're good.
Yeah, it's a journey, which is why we call our Facebook group the Body-Based Warriors, because it's a journey for warriors, really, spiritual warriors, but it is so worth it. It is so worth it. It really is. And Alex, me and Alex, we complement each other in a way. Alex's bioenergetics is, like he said and I said, it's really about getting to those emotions that are down in the fascia, in the tissues, in the deep in the body. And then the work that I do, which Alex also teaches as well, is more about awareness, bringing love, actually. I didn't speak so much about love today, but it's about bringing love to our bodies, because it's love that heals. Love heals. Sounds cliche, but it's true. It's love that heals. And we all have this love within us. And it's our own love within us which will heal our own bodies and which will bring us back home. So we use both, we combine both to kind of create this journey. So we're just going to tell you a little bit about we've got an event coming up in 2 weeks. So we're just going to tell you a little bit about that before we move on to questions. So the event is called Open to Transformation. It's actually a full day. So we meet in the morning, 10 a.m., not too early, and we go through a full day. We really give you a full, thorough day of going through practices, teachings, meditations to really bring you into the experience of being in your body. You may experience that before, you may have got a taste of it now, but you will really get a taste of it. You will really feel it, and you'll shift a lot. And then we have a 7-day initiation into the body after that. So it's a full day intensive 7-day initiation. So that starts in 2 weeks today. I'm going to pop the link in the chat in a moment, but you're very welcome to join us for that. And I'll send you an email out tomorrow about that as well. Is there anything else you'd like to add on that before we go to questions, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, on the intensive, we'll go a lot more into the body. This was kind of just a taste of bioenergetics, and hopefully you got something from it. But yeah, dedicating a full day to this practice is really can be challenging, but it's very transformative as well. You know, to continuously keep coming back to the body throughout the course of the day. It can be a little bit alien to us, but it's a chance to really dive deep into the body, and that will be bioenergetics. We'll maybe do 2 or 3 sessions. I haven't decided yet, but it won't be all fully intense. Like, you know, maybe that was a bit intense for you, what we just did, but also, you know, we do lying down postures, laying down on the floor, really breathing and feeling the body, getting the breathing and feeling elements going. So yeah, it's jam-packed full of good stuff.
Yeah, and if you did want to join us, we recommend really treating it like a retreat. Like, give yourself that Sunday in 2 weeks, take it off, keep the phone away, and from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. or 5 p.m., 6 p.m., whenever we finish, just really treat it as a retreat. We're going to be in retreat together for that day. And then the following 6 days, you'll be getting videos every day, really practices, really honing in on how to do this, how to come back into the body, how to come back into the being. So yeah, we'd love to see some of you there if you'd like to join us. And we will open the floor to questions. Yeah. You can either raise your hand, you can post in the chat, either way. Oh, I'm going to.
Hello, good